Hello and welcome to our Facebook Live, our first ever Facebook Live Q&A. So there's going to be a little bit of a learning curve here, but we will go through it and we'll do it together and we'll learn together, and we will be doing a lot more of these, I believe. Just to kind of set things up, my name is Matthew Eppinette. I'm the Executive Director of the Center for Bioethics and Culture, and with me is Jennifer Lahl. She founded the Center for Bioethics and Culture in the year 2000 in the Bay Area. We're an educational organization, and we exist to raise awareness of and provide education on a full range of bioethics issues, from beginning of life to end of life and everything in between. We're very excited to be doing this Facebook Live Q&A. We got some really great questions ahead of time, so we want to dive into those first. As I say, this is a learning process for us, so I'm not sure what it looks like on your end for you to be able to put in questions, but we have a trusty assistant sitting behind us that you can't see out of frame, and she's going to help us out with that side of it. So I may actually turn around and ask her a question in a minute. Don't be alarmed. But let's dive into the questions here. First up, we had Simon posted two great questions. Thank you for those, Simon. Do you want to take a stab at these initially, or how do you want to?
Yeah, sure. Well, the first question that Simon asked was basically around the biological connections, and he says IVF was initially designed to help heterosexual couples having difficulty conceiving a child, but now it's being heavily marketed to singles and to same-sex couples. And he says these services often disconnect biological connections between children and their parents. And he wants to know, are these practices now simply children for sale, and what social adverse outcomes are we seeing within the children? So we would agree with Simon as far as the concern about disconnecting those biological connections. And certainly at one level, it is the buying and selling of children. I mean, that's what the New York State Task Force said when they reviewed the issue of surrogacy for New York State, where commercial surrogacy isn't permitted, because they said you basically cannot distinguish this from the buying and selling of children. So, thank you, Simon.
Yeah, and the only thing I would add is this has turned into a multi-billion-dollar international industry, so there's quite a bit of money at stake here, and we've seen, particularly in surrogacy, where it moves from country to country to country seeking fewer regulations and looser regulations, and very much driven by money, which is just wrong.
And there was great news coming out of India just yesterday that has made commercial surrogacy illegal, so there's only the altruistic practices now permitted.
Yeah, and there's a post down below on that with a very helpful infographic if you want to take a look at that. The second question that Simon asked is about whether denying IVF services, particularly to gay couples or to singles, if that is somehow a breach of human rights. This is really a fascinating question because I'd be interested to know what particular human right Simon might wonder is at stake here, because I think this is part of the question, is what qualifies as a human right? I mean, certainly as a culture, we have come to understand that human rights include the right to basic necessities, the right not to be owned by another person, and how do we as a society go about adding to those rights? And I don't know that we've really established a good procedure for that, and so it's very difficult for me to accept the premise that there is a human right at stake. There's just simply not a human right to be a parent. And so there's no violation at stake here. I think that inverts the relationship of parents to children, and you begin to forget that children are a gift to be treasured and accepted as they are. And I think that's part of what's really at stake in a lot of these questions about reproductive technologies, and it very quickly gets ignored and pushed aside, and yet it's a very central concern.
And we have to remember that the Declaration on the Rights of the Child actually say that it's the child who has the human right, if you will, and that right is to their parents. So a couple, a heterosexual couple, a same-sex couple, a single person does not have a right to another person's body, their eggs, their sperm, their wombs, so that they can have a child, or the right to access these technologies that allow them. So there's in our mind, no human right that's being violated.
Yeah. So thank you, Simon. Those were both really great questions. We have another one here from Sophie in South Australia, who unfortunately wasn't going to be able to join us this morning because of the time difference, and I certainly understand that. Maybe what we need to do is a middle of the night Q&A for our friends so far away. But thank you for posting your question. And this is a great question for you, Jennifer, because I know you have a lot of friends in this community. She's asking, why aren't the experiences of adult adoptees? We've learned a lot over the past 40, 50 years from the experiences of adoptees, and she's wondering, why aren't those experiences being factored into debates now over surrogacy and donor conception and things like that?
Yeah, and that was one of the things that was really surprising to us in our work. I mean, we sort of entered into assisted reproductive technology criticism and critique, if you will, just thinking of it from the technology side of it, the bioethical side of it, and we were really surprised in a good way when our films were released how much the adoptive community, the adoption advocacy people sort of embraced our work, and they helped us to see the connections that we didn't already on our own, just naturally seeing the work that we were doing. So I guess to answer Sophie's question, I still think we have a long way to go in the work that the adoption advocacy people are trying to do, to have true and accurate birth certificates, to have access to important information about biological parentage, to realize that the narrative, whether it be in adoption or in assisted reproduction technology, that it does matter to the child. It's just not to be loved and to be wanted, but that these familial and genetic connections are really true and right and good and valuable and should be protected. So I think the adoption world would agree that we still have a long way to go in helping to get the public and the policies to change in hearing their case, and to connect that these two industries are sort of the same, different sides of the same coin, perhaps.
Yeah. So we are hearing you, and your input has been really valuable to the two of us in our work, and we do appreciate it, and keep on making common cause with us. We really appreciate it. The next question we had was from Iva. I hope I'm saying your name right. He's asking about the recent news that the United States National Institutes of Health is lifting a moratorium on the creation of chimeras. And on Fridays, we put out a document every Friday on our website, and of course we post the link here on Facebook, to what we call This Week in Bioethics, or TWIB. And we've addressed this just very briefly a couple of times in our TWIB, This Week in Bioethics. And in fact, I've been working on the one for today, and we'll have more on that in that TWIB. But the question that he asks about creating chimeras is there any truth in the claims that this ethically challenged research can help find new ways to treat illness, or is it just a smokescreen that would provide opportunities for mischief? That's a great question, and I think the truth is, somewhere in between, as happens with a lot of things. There probably are people that would make mischief with technologies like this. And I think there are a lot of people that are going into it really honestly looking for ways to treat illness. And I think there are things that we could learn from it. But the truth is, as Paul Ramsey said, and for those of you who don't know, we have a close relationship with the legacy of Paul Ramsey. We founded a Paul Ramsey Institute. We give out a Paul Ramsey Award. Paul Ramsey was one of the preeminent ethicists of the 20th century, right at the dawn of the field that actually is bioethics. And he said that there just are some things we shouldn't be able to know, that just aren't ethically, morally permissible to find out, because there's no way to find them out without violating ethics, without violating the integrity of other human beings. And so I think that the fact of the matter is, when it comes to this chimera, is that there are many good-hearted people that really do want to find valuable information, but they've lost sight of the damage and the ethical peril that these kinds of technologies can generate and create. And I don't think that most people are setting out to make mischief, but I think that there are certain ways in which our science and our ethics have been separated, and that's not helpful, and it's not good for society.
And I think sort of as a good illustration of what has happened using the assisted reproductive technology example to help us, when we started helping people conceive and have babies through this technology, because we didn't think robustly, ethically about it, here in the United States alone, we have, close to 750,000 frozen human embryos. That's sort of a byproduct of this not really thinking rigorously about should we do this and what are going to be the long-term implications of it. So I think with the Chimera research, where we do have good scientists who really long to find cures and benefit our shared common future here, we have to be mindful that good science always is ethical science.
We have a live question coming in. And this is great. I think sometimes since we've been in the field for a while, we kind of lose sight of those days when this was a new subject matter to us. And so the question is, what is bioethics? Do you want to take this one?
Yeah, sure. I mean, when I was in graduate school studying bioethics, and Matthew and I went to the same program, that's how we came to be friends and colleagues. In the olden days, it was medical ethics. And everything that the doctors decided, was sort of grounded in a robust Hippocratic oath tradition of do no harm kind of medicine. It was all medical ethics driven. Then we entered into this new field of biomedical research and biotechnology. And so medical ethics, in my mind, sort of expanded to this new world of biotechnology and biomedical ethics, where it's no longer just doctors, but it's scientists, it's venture capitalists, it's angel investors at Silicon Valley, entrepreneurs, and all these people who are coming up with these new novel technologies that can interface into our humanity. So it's not sort of the old-fashioned, the doctor knows best and the doctor, sort of drives the life, the care of patients, but now it's all more technologically driven.
Yeah, another way some people look at it is that medical ethics really has to do with that kind of bedside relationship between physician and patient, and that bioethics expands into not only the technology of it, but also the larger sort of philosophical questions about what does it mean to be human, what are the essential parts of our humanity, and what are ways in which technological interventions violate that or enhance that or further that or hold that back. And this is particularly interesting with respect to questions like the difference between enhancement and therapy. And so traditionally, medicine has been involved in a therapeutic pursuit of restoring health or healing. But now, more and more, what we're seeing are developments that actually enhance capabilities. And so as kind of one of the more familiar examples is performance-enhancing drugs in sports, which largely as a society we've decided is not a good thing, that it's an unequal playing field, literally, and we reject that by and large. And so with medical interventions that can also do this kind of enhancement, making people quote-unquote better than well, there are huge philosophical questions around that, and that falls under the umbrella of what bioethics addresses.
Yeah. And we have another new question. Somebody wants to know that they've heard rumor on the street that we're working on a new documentary film, a short film, and they want to know what it's about. So I actually got to preview a first rough cut yesterday because Matthew's busy editing it, and it is a story of a young woman here in Southern California. We're actually in Pasadena right now. That's where we're chatting to you live, by the name of Stephanie Packer, who is battling a terminal illness, and she's been very outspoken in the state of California on assisted suicide. So look for that film to be released probably mid to end of September.
Yeah, and we don't really have a working title for it yet, so we have a lot that we'll be sharing with you about that film over the next few weeks. Well, this has been really great. We appreciate everybody who's tuned in live, and we appreciate all of the questions. If there are further questions, because I know this will be archived on Facebook, so people may watch it and have questions, do post those down in the comments, and we will respond to those over the next few days as they come in. And look for more Q&As, live Q&As from us. We'll be doing this maybe some more topically focused instead of the broad nature of bioethics, or maybe we'll do the broad bioethics again. If you have thoughts on that, put that in the comments below. We really do want to get to know you, and we appreciate your liking our page, following our work, and supporting us in all the ways that you do.
Yeah, and I'm going to try to do live Facebook next week when I'll be flying up to Seattle, Washington, and spending the day with Maggie, who is the woman featured in our short Maggie story. And we're going to be heading to the Capitol there in Washington State to meet with Senator Patty Murray and her staff. So look forward to that, and hopefully without Matthew running the technology, and it won't be a total epic fail. But we do want to hear from you, so let us know if this is helpful to you, if it's worthwhile, and what you'd like to hear more from us.
We've got a new question in, and I have to put on my reading glasses to see it, giving away a bit of my age. Asking if we can summarize recent developments on somatic cells in the USA. I'm not, I apologize, the type is very small, and I'm not sure I follow the question precisely. Yeah. There is a new bill in California, maybe this is what you're asking about, on paying women for eggs for research. Yeah. Which is actually a bill that's come up before. Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's perhaps the question. It's coming up in bigger font here for me now. But somatic cell is human cloning. So I think the question that's coming in from, it looks like Luca, sorry Luca if I'm saying your name wrong, is on human cloning, which is not illegal in any state in the United States. So anybody can be doing human cloning, also known as somatic cell research. So that, of course, is hugely problematic. We have a statement on our website, cbc-network.org, which is our position statement on human cloning. But currently, since the beginning of doing human cloning research, it's been 100% legal in the United States. The biggest debate was who would fund it.
Right, and so there's a ban on U.S. government funding for embryo-destructive research currently, but not a legal ban on the actual work itself. Yeah.
But we do have a live bill in the state of California that will allow, if passed, will allow women to be paid to sell their eggs for scientific research. And of course, any researcher who's doing somatic cell embryo research would need eggs, human eggs, to do that research. And we fought that bill before, and we were successful in getting Governor Brown to veto the bill. But we're battling another bill, it's the very same bill, but a different legislature. So we're hoping that when that bill makes its way to Governor Brown's desk, he will continue to veto the bill. His reasons for vetoing it was out of concern for women's health, out of concern of minority low-income women who will be incentivized to sell their eggs to make money and put their health in harm's way. And none of those reasons have changed, so hopefully he will realize that there's nothing new and that he will continue to veto the bill.
Yeah, and I really appreciated in his veto the principled stand that he took, because he opened the letter by saying not everything in life is for sale, nor should it be. And that's exactly the right perspective. It's not a matter of the utility or the benefit that could possibly come from this. It's a matter of the principle that not everything in life should be for sale. We have a follow-up question on the Chimera question, which it's possible I didn't fully answer. We believe that the moratorium on chimeric research should stay in place, that it opens a Pandora's box of issues that we do not fully understand and that we might not ever fully understand without doing basically unethical research. Because who's going to be the first person to try this? Completely unknown thing. What the results could be in terms of reproduction and passing down genetic manipulations through the germ cells, through the sperm and the egg, to generation after generation after generation. We just do not and cannot know the results of that. And so for that reason, we applauded the moratorium when it was put in place, and it should remain in place.
Yeah, and I think, again, to illustrate, because of our decision in the United States not to fund destructive embryonic research with federal funds, that, again, encouraged scientists to spend a lot more time and effort in adult stem cell research. And of course, just recently in the news, we've heard overwhelmingly how many successes and breakthroughs and advances have been done in the area of adult stem cell research, actually bringing real-life treatments to the bedside, to the patient. So, it's just an example of when you say, no, we're not going to pursue this route because of the real dangers, the known dangers, or the potential dangers, that encourages us to find better and more ethical directions.
Yeah, great questions, and thank you for that follow-up to give us a chance to fill that in a little bit more. All right, well, we've been on for about 20 minutes, so we don't want to tie up your whole day.
Your lunch break.
But we really have enjoyed this, and look forward to talking with you again soon and conversing with you in the comments on this or any other thing that we post on our page. Thank you again, and we will talk to you later.
Bye-bye.